Hi, welcome to another video on my channel. Thank you for joining me. Many professionals think that we can write and study only during college and school days. Gone are the days when we used to use the pen, notebook, textbook and all that. Well, today's video is all about when to make notes and when will notes really help you when it comes to learning English. So thank you for joining me again. This is Renee Rose Matthew. I'm a CELTA certified tutor and also an author. If you're watching my video for the first time, do not hesitate to go through the other videos on the channel because many of your questions would have been already answered. Let's get started. Of course, as a student, we have to use pen, paper, notebook, textbook, everything. You have to write down, and today there are schools that operate with tabs and laptops and such kind of things, but writing has got its own benefit. Now, coming to language learning, when it comes to certain examinations, so we're going to deal with the first point. When should we take down notes? When it comes to certain structured examinations such as IELTS, OET, or particular competitive examination where we have modules and structure, where we have to practice the essays and such kind of requirements, we need to take down notes. But otherwise, as a language learner, I always tell my learners, reading, listening, speaking, writing. When you listen, when you read, and when you make that attempt to speak, we need good words, right? And for that, little bit of effort should be taken to write down some phrases, to write down some words. Just keep a book for that. Now, coming to the next point, sometimes notes will not work when you're just going to focus on grammar notes, because we have been taught that way during our school days and college days. Irrespective of age, irrespective of profession, people do take down notes. During our school days and college days, you would have noticed that we were given notes. It's a kind of rote learning method. Sometimes we were spoon-fed also, where the requirement was to remember and to also comprehend certain portions of the textbook, because the same thing will be asked for the examination. So that was the need of the structure. That was the need of the curriculum. But we got so used to it, thinking that just like the other subjects, language learning also takes place that way, where we have to solve some exercise from the workbook, sometimes get all the answers right, especially when it comes to grammar areas. Many learners tell me, I am able to solve the worksheets, but how is that I'm not able to speak fluently? Now, speaking requires presence of mind, spontaneity. It's a combination of many things put together. And every day you have to do this. Every day speaking should be a part of your routine, schedule, whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, the spontaneity will not be a part of your life. Learning from the context is important when it comes to grammar as well. But when we take the workbook or the grammar book of the school, anything that's prescribed for the curriculum, we get to see grammar portions. For example, simple tense, present continuous, present perfect tense. That's how it is structured. But I don't think that's going to help you when it comes to speaking and context. For the sake of understanding, you can refer to such kind of grammar books. You can read. But all these grammar books will give you some kind of basics, that's all. You have to experiment, understand the context, and you should really know when and where to use it. Now that comes with practice. Now, how to practice is a very big question. So when it comes again to the spoon feeding part, we may not have activities. It'll just be notes, comprehension questions. That's not going to do much. It's not going to help you when it comes to speaking fluently in any language. And critical analysis, discussions, asking questions, enquiries, also investigating on certain aspects is required when it comes to communication and language. When I say investigation, when I say enquiries, it's not just the debates and the discussions and the arguments that we have. The last point is, many learners tell me, ma'am, when it comes to writing, I'm very good. I don't make any mistakes. So let me tell you something. When you speak, of course, you're not very easy with it, because it happens spontaneously. Somebody asks you something, you may not have the sufficient time to edit, proofread, and then form the sentences. That is why many people are not comfortable with speaking, and that's why we say you need to practice. Now, practicing is not just conversation. Okay? Now, when it comes to writing, you have more time. It's easy. You're just communicating with the monitor of the computer or an electronic gadget or the paper. You're not seeing anybody else. Yeah, so just communicating, you have time to think and write also. That is why it's more easy and comfortable. And we are also quite comfortable writing pages of essay because we have been doing it for a very long time since the school days. But that's not it. You could be making the same mistake when it comes to writing and speaking. You may not know. So suppose you make maybe 7 mistakes while speaking, you could be making just 5 or 4 mistakes while writing, because you have time to think, cut a few errors, to edit it, and to proofread and find out where you really made the mistake. So that doesn't mean you know everything, because most of the time learners don't realize, don't identify. They fail to understand that they have been making mistakes for a very long time during the speech. And that's because of the habitual pattern. So when it comes to note making also, you can make notes. Nobody is stopping you. You can have different ways of making these notes. Sticky notes, okay, where you just write it down and paste it on the book. It's for quick reference, and that's something only you will understand. When it comes to note making from a textbook, you know how to do it, where you read, you take down the notes, and then see, when you do all these things, it's a very big process of learning. It's not just copying down points. You read something, understand, write it in your own words. Writing is very good. It will help you with the spellings also. When you spell out a word properly, you are establishing a better bond with the word. Believe me, it's not just for the sake of language. Right? You will know how to pronounce it. You will know how to articulate it. That's the beauty of language. So note making can be done in any way, while reading a book or just by taking down notes from the textbook or the reference book. But as a language learner, if you take that bit of effort, suppose you're listening to a podcast or reading just 2 pages from a book, if you see that some of the phrases are beautifully crafted and written down there by the author, you can type it onto your notepad on your mobile phones or tab or laptop, whatever is accessible, or just quickly write it down. Now people are so lazy thinking, oh, what's the need? I'll remember. You will not remember after some time. You will have so many things at the back of your mind when you are learners, when you deal with many things, not just adults but also children. So taking that bit of effort to write it down and then jot it down somewhere or take a note of it will definitely help you in the future. So note making is not just for children, it's also for anybody from any profession. It doesn't mean you have to sit and study. It can happen subconsciously also later. When you see something very interesting, you write it down and then just refer to it later whenever you are free. Because when you see the word, that's the first learning. When you write it down, that's a second encounter. So first is you see the word, okay, you understand the spelling, or maybe you may not take note of the spelling, but after that you check the meaning and then you forget about it. The fourth encounter happens when you try to recollect. And again, you try to find out the meaning and try using it in a context. Fifth, sixth, so 5-6 times you are shaking hands with the same word, which is great, don't you think so? Just keep all these things in mind. Try to listen to this video again to write down some of the pointers and start implementing it. Happy learning.